Thank you for joining us on today's Renewed Minds. This edition is brought to you by Special Connections. The Special Connections is a ministry to young adults ages 22 to 40 with and without intellectual differences. The focus is to provide spiritual nurturing, fellowship, and fun in an exclusive group setting. It meets on the fourth Sunday of each month from 4:45 to 6 p.m. Contact Church on Main at office@churchonmain.church for more details. In our podcast, we're always discussing challenges and opportunities we all face no matter what the season of life we're in. Our episodes include some practical tips we've learned over the years and also share how love and grace can help each of us while we're trying to maintain hope. Today's topic is faith-based community engagement, why it is important, and how to do it right. Today, we're going to explore the vital role faith-based community engagement plays in creating connection, fostering support, and driving positive change, whether it's through service, advocacy, or simply coming together to uplift one another. Faith communities have long been a cornerstone of meaningful action in the world. In this episode, we're going to discuss how embracing your faith, or simply your sense of purpose, can inspire deeper connections and empower you to make a lasting impact. So let's dive into those ways of faith and community intersect and bring about hope and transformation. But today we have with us, we have Tommy McDearris, our pastor of Church on Main. We have Tanya Dinkle, owner and coach of Life in Action, and Martha Ann Stallings, a retired educator. Of how many years have you been educating, Martha Ann?
Well, my whole career was in education, and that was maybe 35 years, something like that. But it was university, elementary, secondary, and central office administration. So, and now my education is tutoring after school.
Nice.
I was going to say, Tommy and I talk a lot about passions and callings and, what we're meant to do. And we talk to people about that. And your retirement phase, I'll call it, season, has just been a continuation from an education standpoint of what you did for 35 years, right?
It has. And, it's just kind of who I am and a part of my being and what I so embrace about our church and Church on Main is that we all seem to kind of want to do for others and do outreach opportunities. And so I don't ever do anything solo. I do it with others, which for me is a big part of that work. And volunteerism is when you can do the work with others and be uplifted by that.
Martha Ann is another one of those individuals that probably flunked retirement as fully as anybody as I have ever
My
known.
husband would say yes.
Yeah. she
a lot of those people
retired
in our
and got
world.
busier than she was before. Martha Ann usually demands to be called Dr. Stallings.
Yeah, right. Not.
So, Martha Ann, can you kind of take us back to, I think your kickoff was great talking about passions and kind of what we're called to do. Can you take us back to when you first realized what your passions were and started intentionally walking that path?
Well, interesting. I thought about that on my way here today. I thought, boy, why is this something that's part of who I am and what I want to always be? And I went back to my childhood before I started thinking about my adulthood because I was from a family that didn't have a lot of resources, but no one in the community in Kentucky did. But my parents very much believed in giving to others. And so I was very fortunate to see that at an early age. If you had 3 things, you gave 2 of them away. And so that was something that I was able to watch and observe early on. And then once I got out of college and started teaching, that was my first, I did some other stuff first because I couldn't get a job. But once I got a teaching job, and especially here in Montgomery County, because I did Pulaski for a year, I saw the opportunity to help children understand the importance of doing for others. And one of the first things I did at Gilbert Lincoln Elementary was walk a group of students over here to our church's food pantry at the time. Adam Bresky was in that class, so that tells you how long ago that is because he's probably 45 now. But I just thought it was important for them to see what the food pantry was. We each brought a can of soup or peanut butter or whatever it was. And someone met us. That was when it was a small space, but someone met us and gave us a tour of the facility and why it was important. And so I think for me, making sure that those that I taught and maybe was around, that they understood the importance of helping others. And we would always do, at Christmas time, instead of buying gifts for each other, the students, we would take an angel off of the tree at the mall, and parents would bring them to the mall, and after school we'd go shopping. So it's just been something that I've always thought was important. And then I think what happens is it just kind of becomes a part of what you do. So even at different schools, they're always looking for volunteers to be willing to organize or be the person to take names and things for the Christmas store. So I've been involved with the Christmas store since it started.
Wow.
And that's over 40 years ago, but not in big roles. I think there's times in your lives when you have more time than others. And I've always been pretty good about giving myself permission to say this is not a good time. But I also always wanted to do something. So some years I could do more than others. I also thought it was important to let my children see how important this was. And I can still remember a little girl, I think this was at Kipps Elementary, who was very needy, had a lot of home struggles. And so Charlie Ann and Elliot and I took her out to dinner one night. My husband traveled a lot at that time. And I just wanted them to meet someone else who wasn't as privileged as they were. And then they got to know one of my students better. And then afterwards, we went Christmas shopping for Stacy. I still remember her name, Stacy. So I think, once again, I think you can influence as an individual what you know is important. And I think that's what I've always been about as an educator, is not only doing it myself, but helping other people understand how important it is to serve others.
This is so cool. We're going to talk about getting into community engagement, but there's a couple of things I just want to call out that you've mentioned. You probably didn't even realize things that you were saying, but these are things that Tommy and I have tried to reinforce in several episodes in the past, and things that we coach people on a regular basis. First of all, you don't have to have it all figured out when you graduate college. It's okay. So let yourself off the hook. If you don't have a job immediately lined up, just look hard and find something else to do, right? You can do other things until the thing pans out. Give yourself permission to say no. And to be aware of the season you're in, and really be present for the things that you did say yes to.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then showing others and bringing others along with you.
One of the things I've noticed here at Church on Main makes me think of the seasons, I think you said, that we're in. My life group, we have all ages, which is one of the reasons I love it so. But there's a lady, Ann, in our class, and we were talking about volunteering or doing one of the mission things here at church, and she said, I so miss those days when I had the energy and the ability to do the volunteering that I did. And I can't do that like I used to. So we had a conversation about what are those things that you can do at different times in your life. And it's okay not to go back and be doing the physical things maybe that you did. But she's the first one almost every year to take an angel off the tree and to go shopping.
And she can probably mentor other people who are trying to figure out how to get into that space, right?
So
lots to give.
We just have, once again, we have to know what we need to do. The other one thing I have learned, and it's hard for me because, like Tommy said, I like to do a lot of things, is to not think you have to be in charge of everything either, because you don't. And one of the things that this church always tells me is how many leaders we have. We have so many people at this church who have abilities that I don't have. Or they have more time, or they have interest. And I think what we need to do is know, I think what you just said, is what are those things that I'm the most passionate about, or I have the gifts for. We have people in this church who can organize anything, and I'm learning that watching. And we have other people that want to jump in and do the food. Susan McDearce is one of those who provides the food every time we tutor, and every time we have an event at our Adams Mark. And she says that's what she likes to do.
Yeah,
And rather than us say, oh, but we should be helping you, she said, no, I got this.
Yeah.
This is what I enjoy doing.
Yeah.
I'll let you know if I need help. So I think those are the things that we also learn after we age a bit or have more experiences, to know that we have lots of people. I'm using this church as an example. We have lots of people who want to do things, and we need to divide up what needs to be done, and people need to connect with the things that they're the most passionate about. For me, a lot of it's the tutoring and the working with the children at Adams Mark that we know is important. We've been doing that now 9 years. It's hard to believe, and we can keep up with that because we had a kindergartner who now is in 8th grade, Bella. So we know how long we've been doing it. So for me, it gave me that ability to take those skills that I had as a teacher, and a little organizing, but more so just the interest in being around children and helping them be successful.
You hit on something a minute ago that is a fact. Our church is a very blessed church because we do have lots of leaders, lots of very talented people. We're in a talented community, and it's made up of that. And so we do get to draw on that a lot. It's reminding everybody that we have to lean into our skills and all work together in that process. That's worked very well for us out at Adams Mark, at our mission there. And it is a true mission. It's a mission on a lot of different levels. Martha Ann, you're probably, I'm paying you a compliment here.
Okay.
Watch for it.
Yeah, that's right. Hang on to this one.
All
anyway,
right.
Maybe.
Yeah, the record button is pressed, so we've got proof.
You probably are as good as I've ever seen at taking your talents in all kinds of the areas that you are gifted and putting them to work. And you are not picky about where you do that. You also are one that does not have to have the limelight in all of that. How did that come about for you? Because you are a very upfront leader kind of person, yet you are an individual who doesn't mind other people having the spotlight.
Boy, what a question. And I have to think about that. I think it goes back to my childhood. And I was raised to have confidence. I'm not sure why, but my mom had me convinced I could do pretty much anything I needed to do and wanted to do.
Yay, Mom.
And I was the first one in my family not to go to college, but to finish college. And I never had any doubt that I would go to college and be successful and pick a career, and I changed careers. I've done different, all in education, but I've done different things. And so I think some of it goes back to, once again, my childhood understanding that I'm okay to be me, and it takes some confidence, but like Tommy said, you also don't want to take that to the extreme and let arrogance take over either. So I don't really know that I answered that question, but it's just kind of my personality, I think. I had I would call it luxury of teaching at different schools. My first teaching in Montgomery County was in the Shawsville community. And I go back and think that crafted me a little bit as an educator, because I worked with students who were in need. Not all students, of course, but there were several students there that I kind of embraced and got to know their families and was able to get a little more involved than just as a teacher. So I think that started me in terms of thinking through of what I could do and couldn't do. And then every place I went in my educational career, I learned things. I was very fortunate to work with some outstanding school leaders. And those principles in particular, I think, helped me be a better educator and leader. There's, if you don't mind me using a name, Ray Van Dyke, Jim Sellers were two people that were just very impactful in my educational career and personal careers, as always. And we used to laugh and say they had a way of helping teachers understand how they could get involved in a leadership role as a teacher. And that's kind of where I started that leadership piece. And we used to laugh and say, they would give us part of their jobs, and we would thank them for giving us their jobs, but we enjoyed doing it because it empowered us to know that we were capable to do more than just teaching reading and writing in the classroom. It was beyond the classroom. It was leadership skills.
If you were going to give advice to a young teacher or to not just about teaching, but how to get involved, how to watch for the kid that needs the help that comes from, what would you say to them with them starting out today?
It's a very good question, because one of the jobs, educational jobs I had to do with mentoring and helping beginning and novice teachers for Montgomery County. And we always talked about the classroom. I don't know that we talked about beyond the classroom as much as what you're talking about. But I think what I would say to that, and we often said to new educators, is look around you and see others that are doing things that you like, that maybe you're not quite ready to do yet. But we always tried to place strong mentors with new folks. Sometimes those matches were good, sometimes they weren't ideal. But we said, make sure you're taking care of the classroom, but at the same time, you also need to know the students and the families and develop relationships and see, and if we can't take care of their needs, how are we going to expect them to be successful in the classroom? And then after that, we said, I remember saying this specifically, it's okay to make a mistake. Not always just even about teaching, but working with parents or working with kids or discipline. I mean, who is a really good classroom manager their first year of teaching? No one. And if you are, you're exceptional, which is great. There's been a few out there, but not many. So you have to give yourself permission to say, oh, I didn't do this as well as I wanted to, or I should have done. And we would ask people, we'd say to people, that's okay. Let's do a do-over. Let's start again. And I think it's the same thing with working with children, because you want the kids to like you, and when you want the kids to like you, sometimes we don't set boundaries and we don't set expectations. So that's kind of the teaching piece, but I also think it goes beyond that, and we find that out even at Adams Mark. Yes, we're there, we want to help them be successful in school, but we also want them to be good human beings. And so we want to set, guidelines that are appropriate for them. And we always need to think about our behaviors as well. Because one of the things is students look at you and watch you carefully. Just like church members look at Tommy.
Right. Well, I was just going to say, this is such good advice for anybody, whether even if you're not in education. I mean, you can substitute the word student for employees or coworkers, team members. You can substitute, parents for families, right, of coworkers. Your principals are your supervisors, and any of these roles can be substituted with another role. Absolutely. The concepts are the same, and we still have to have boundaries. We have to set clear expectations. And looking at what other people are doing and seeing what sparks an interest in you is equally important in all of those arenas. And I will tell you, too, this is something else I tell people. Tommy, I don't know if you've ever told anybody this or not. It is just as important to know what you don't want to do as it is what you do want to do, right? So that you can manage that, too, not saying that you won't ever not have to do it just because you don't like to do it. I'm sure there are things in teaching that you did, not my favorite thing, but, right? That happens everywhere.
It does.
It's in every single role.
Well, it's interesting. My first elementary teaching was first grade, and I don't think I was very good at it. And I was confident enough to say I wasn't very good at it in terms of helping the kids enter and teaching of reading, and I'm a reading specialist. But it made me a little nervous to think, if these kids don't learn how to read in first grade, maybe I haven't done my job. And so I said, I think I need to go up a little higher, because I had taught middle school before that. So I said, I think I need to go to third grade. That's a good grade for me. But I didn't feel defeated. I didn't feel like, I hadn't done the right thing, because I worked really hard when I was in that classroom. And I felt like I made some successes, but I wasn't the best fit for that first grade classroom. And I had-
We all have those things,
Yeah.
right? There are things that we are
Absolutely.
just not good at. God built us in a unique way,
Yeah.
each and every one of
And
us.
we find this at Adam's Mark, just like Susan enjoys the food piece, and of course she does other things too. But she's in the kitchen preparing. When the kids get there, they have something to eat, and they go up and they say, "Thank you, Miss Susan." I mean, it's important for them to see that we love them.
Yeah.
We want to have some fellowship first before we jump into whatever we're doing. But we have people who are very comfortable, church members who are working or volunteering at the Adams Mark at different grade levels, different subjects. Phyllis Reddick was there this week helping with first graders because she taught kindergarten, and she was just loving it as a volunteer. She was subbing this week. So it's the same thing there. We find we have our niches, we have our skill sets that make us, like Chuck Lee and I do fifth grade because I used to teach fifth grade. Some people are scared of fifth grade. It's not scary to me, and it probably wouldn't be once they were in there, but they feel like fourth grade's better for them or third grade, whatever it is. So people are very good, I think, once we gather people at Adams Mark and we talk about what we're doing, of saying, that's what I want to do. Just like sports camp. Oh, well, I still call it Vacation Bible School because it's kind of the same thing. But it's the opportunity for kids to get together in the summer. There are once again, Susan and different people will do the food, and other people will jump in and do the sports, and other people will do the registration because they like to check off names.
Yeah.
And people here at our church are just really good about stepping up and identifying what they want to do and what they believe they can do the best.
So let's talk about the actual engaging in the community. And you've talked a lot about Adams Mark. So just to kind of help our listeners understand, if they're not familiar with what Adams Mark is, can you tell us about that ministry?
So Adams Mark, once again in its 8th year, is an after-school tutoring program, and we have 2 different models now. We have an elementary that used to serve kindergarten, and now we're doing 1st through 5th. And then we have a middle high school program in the evening on a Monday night that's an extension of that program. But this is I would consider it a church-based mentoring mission project that our church has just embraced. And we serve a community in Blacksburg that's a mobile park community, and we say Adams Mark all the time, so we know where it is on Merrimack. And one of the things that has helped make it so successful is the students are all coming from one school. They all live in the same community. Most of them know each other. Is that we collaborate and we have a partnership with Price's Fork Elementary, and that without that piece, we would not be having the success that we have because we talk with the principal, Melanie Harold. We connect with teachers, and our goal is to develop a relationship and love the children, but in addition to help them be successful in school. What we know is there are some kids who go home after school to warm cookies and milk, and the parents set them down and say, "Let's do your homework." We know there's other children that don't have that opportunity, do not have that environment, and yet the next day they're expected to go to school and turn in their homework. So what we can do is help them bridge that home to school, help them feel good about what they're doing, maybe identify things that they need help in. Teachers are very good about letting us know student A could use this help. Are we making a huge difference academically? Not as much as you might think, because we only do it twice a week and we're with them 45 minutes. But boy, do I think we're building confidence in the children. We're making them understand how smart and loved they are. And we give them a chance also to spend time with us, telling us about their lives. And what we've found with this program and the secondary program as well is now it's become a community-based mission. And we have people at Adams Mark, as Tommy would know, that need our support, who do not have children, but they live near us or they live behind us. And so we are there to help that whole community, but our base starts with the children that we tutor.
Yeah, so you started with saying this is a church-based program, which it is, but it actually, just for clarity, we actually have a building within the community. So we are right there. We have a team there in the community, which makes accessibility easy for them, right? If we've taken away a barrier
And, you know,
for them
that's
to
what
get
I
to this.
think makes this somewhat unique. And I was not involved at the very beginning. We need to give credit to people who were like Reed Nicholson, and they did their homework. And what they found out was in order to be successful in this type of program, you needed to live in the community. And that's basically what we do. One of our neighbors calls it the community center because he knows that's where everybody gathers.
Yeah.
And I tell people when I'm out in the community talking about this this mission, and I think sometimes they get tired of hearing about it, but I say our church has been committed to this for a long time. And that's what just warms my heart to think about the resources that we are willing to put into this ministry. And it's not inexpensive, but it's also so important to do. And so when you think about, we pay the rent, we provide internet so that they can do their homework, or they can come up, it's Wi-Fi, so they can come up during the week when we're not there and sit outside and do their homework. We've been providing things that just are pretty amazing and unique. The fact that we kept that building during COVID told me, okay, this isn't going away. We had a group of us talking and praying about it during COVID, because we would have understood, I'm going to get emotional now, but we would have understood if Tommy had come and said, we're spending a lot of money on a building that we're not using. And the only way that building was being used was when Gina was going to buy food and dropping, and people would come by, and she was so good at connecting with the families and saying, what are your needs? And they told her. They said, we need milk. You know, we're getting canned foods or whatever we're getting from the school, but we need milk, and we need and because those relationships had already started, I mean, you couldn't go in once this COVID had started and do that, but we had been there, I'm going to guess 3 or 4 years maybe at that point, Tommy. And so because of that, they trusted us, they let us know what they needed, and we can pay, I don't like that word, but we continue to support that mission in a couple years that we didn't use it a lot, you know, or when we did finally start coming, we'd sit outside, you know, when it wasn't really safe to be inside. But that told me the commitment that this church had to that program.
It was an interesting time, because Gina, who she's talking about here, was Gina Kennedy. She was our paid staff member that was there at the time. And Gina came to me and she said, "Look, we know that, you know, we've got a building here. We don't have anything in it. I told her, I said, well, it never occurred to me. We're not shutting down the rest of our buildings. We're not going to shut that one down either. You know, COVID's not going to last forever, and we'll be ready to go back when we do." And it has been, you were talking about the work we've done out there. The principal has told me that their test scores have actually gone up a bit since we've done that. But we've also just had impact on those kids. It's been because some of them come from their fine parents that just are a bit, they have less, they're stretched. They really are. Some of them come from very difficult home life too, and they've latched on to a lot of our people and tried to. They've learned from, I think, our people that's invested in them, and I think they've appreciated that investment.
Well, you know, something that's come out of this that we didn't envision at the beginning is with the secondary program, and that wasn't part of the initial vision, I don't think, but what do you do once you've been with kids for 5 years?
Right.
Going to say bye-bye? No. You know, Rebecca said, no, we can continue this with a middle high school. What's middle now? Once again, they're going to high school. Yeah. But she, matter of fact, even meets with, has a meeting set up, I just happen to know about this, with a teacher at the middle school because they've identified some of the kids are struggling in one particular subject. Makes sense. I won't say what it is, and I happened to be there that night because I was subbing for Tina, and I said, well, who's your teachers? And I knew one of the teachers. Once again, it goes back to those people that you know and those relationships. And so I connected that teacher with Rebecca, and now they're meeting, and her goal is to find out how she can help the kids be more successful, or not feel like they're struggling. And they just identified this one in particular subject that was hard for them, and it made sense. It's a hard subject.
Yeah.
So that was an extension that we didn't see, I don't think, at the beginning, but it's almost being a liaison, because I heard Rebecca said to this teacher, she said, and we've done this, we've opened our trailer or our tutoring location for parent conferences or family conferences, because we know it's hard for them sometimes to get into the schools, transportation, et cetera. And so we've offered it. Some years they take us up on it, some years they don't. But she offered that to the secondary teachers as well. So it's definitely gone beyond the typical what you expect as tutoring. And so it's interesting, some of our tutors are a little uncomfortable that we call it a tutoring program, because we do more than just tutoring. But I believe if we don't call it tutoring, some people won't understand the impact that we can make.
Right.
So we tutor, but we also say, how did your day go today? And how can we help you with whatever?
Kids can never have too many people in their life that love them and support them.
That's right.
It's
And
impossible.
they call us the church.
Yeah.
call
Well,
us
there
the
you
They
church.
go.
do. They refer to the place as their church.
Yeah.
You know, you ask them about it.
And many of them go do go to church.
Yeah,
in
they
some
do.
kind.
Yeah.
Rebecca, who she was talking about, is our pastor to students and families and young adults at our church, and she really does have an investment in those kids. She has a heart for those kids. And puts a lot of time into it. It really is it started out as uniquely a tutoring program, and it just is mushroomed beyond that. We have a English as a second language program, especially for the Hispanic families that live in that area. We have someone that works with that, and then we do all kinds of food and clothing and other things
Bible
that
study
these
as
people.
well.
We've got a Bible study that meets out there. We've got a women's Bible study that meets there. It really has just mushroomed into a very fine ministry, but the heart is still trying to tutor children and help them on more than one level.
So Martha Ann, if you were to, and I know you weren't there at the very beginning to your earlier comment, but you've been there pretty much since the beginning.
Yeah, I just wasn't in the vision of it.
Yeah. So, but you know at this point what it takes to make this work. For people who are listening and they want to get involved, whether it is, and you might have two different lines of advice here, which
Okay.
is totally fine, but
All right.
whether they want to get involved personally in something and they're uncomfortable or they're just not sure where to start, or if they're part of an organization or want to be part of an organization to start something like this, where do people go? What do they do?
Well, one of the things I have said to friends and church members who have expressed a little interest, so tell me a little bit more about what that is,
Yeah.
which tells me, okay, they're a little interested.
They're curious.
I say, just come visit. Come spend a couple of days with us or a couple afternoons with us and watch and jump in when you're comfortable. We've had a couple of people do that. Don't think that we, or whatever volunteering we're talking about, that you're expected to get there on day one and jump in and be an expert. I think you have to, it goes back to some of the things you said earlier, is you need to make sure it's a good fit. You need to make sure this is something you want to come to. That's another thing. If it's something you're just doing because it's on your calendar and, I better do it or Tommy's going to be mad at me if I don't show up.
Most of us are really worried about that.
You have to question the impact you're making, because I believe it's two-sided. I've always believed that I'm helping someone else, but as we know, you're helping yourself.
Oh, yeah.
You
get
get
so
as
much
much
back.
out of giving
So
as
much
we
back.
all know. We tell our kids this all the time. You get as much out of giving as you do receiving. And so it's the same thing with volunteering or working with a project or a mission group. You need to see if it's a good fit. You need to go in and see if it's being organized the way you like. It's interesting, we've had some people who were teachers in the past who've come to our program and not wanted to stay involved because it's not quite structured the way they would do it, for whatever reason. They
And that's
thought
okay.
we'd walk in and have the homework ready to go and we're going to work for 45 minutes. And we've learned over time that just doesn't make the impact that it needs to make. So, but that was okay. Were we critical of that? Absolutely not. You know, once again, you need to take some time to get to know what the project or the activity or the mission that you're getting involved with looks like and feels like, and is it a good match? And if it's not, that's what I love about this community. There's other things to do. What I have found is my hardest thing is deciding what I need to do and should do versus doing too many things. So I think it's like anyone, you have to pick those things that are the most important to you. And what was the other thing? How to start something?
Yeah,
just
like if you're just wanting to start a
tutoring
service.
Well, it's interesting
resource.
about this, and I say this to other people too because I want to give credit, as Tommy knows. There was a program going on, an after-school tutoring program, already going on in this community. And I knew about it. It goes back to when I was teaching at Gilbert Lincoln because it was happening then.
Wow.
Did I get involved with it? I did not. It was after school. I had young kids. I think I was already starting my master's. I don't know.
Yeah.
I was doing something. I said, I love that program. Enjoy it.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
Right.
And I was okay with that. So it's been going on a long time because that was in the...
But not at Adams Mark.
no.
This
This is another
low-income community.
another community that was done by another church. And I say this because they were very helpful in helping, from what I understand, helping us start. Reed and other folks went over and spent some time there, visited, watched the program, after-school program. They gave us forms. They gave us ideas. They gave us, things that we needed to do that saved a lot of time and energy. So we don't want people to think we created this without any other vision or anybody else's help. We did it because we wanted to do it. We knew the need was there, and we saw something happening elsewhere that we could model.
So you didn't recreate the wheel.
We did not.
Which is, that's kind of it's maybe the secret in the sauce. And I've seen other people do that too. I know my mother-in-law is heavily involved in her church food pantry.
Oh, okay.
And built that in the Troutville area, not too terribly far from here. And there's a team that does it, and it's a very dedicated team, just like you're talking about with Adams Mark. And she's had other churches come to them to say, how did you do this? And I think she did that too when they were getting theirs built. So you don't have to start from scratch. You don't have to recreate the wheel. Go ask people, be vulnerable, ask the questions, and then continue to lean into them, I would think, too, after you've started.
Yeah. And it's interesting, though, it's cycled back around because they've been in existence for so long now that they've kind of like slowed down. They've not quite had the energy, the energy maybe. And they've come to, I love it, they've come to us.
That's
I said,
right.
so how are you making this work?
Isn't that great?
And then when Tommy and I both spoke, and Charlotte Smith, who's now our director, we all spoke with someone from that program and shared some things, and they was like, oh, this might help us. But when they talked about some of the, not issues, but some of the little hiccups they've had, they've been some that we've had as well.
Yeah.
Somebody walking in thinking this is not the program I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
And
I just think that's so great that there's you create these environments where people can and want to reach out and ask questions and
And it's not, our church does more than your church.
Right.
That's
not a competition.
There's so much to do in this community that if every church jumped in and did everything we do and more, we would still not meet all the needs. So.
That's absolutely true. It's that we forget that Blacksburg is an oasis, but really Blacksburg, Christiansburg is an oasis in a very poor part of Virginia. And so there's plenty to do out there. And one of the things you hit on that we have done well, and I think other groups should do, is forming partnerships. You don't have to, we're not reinventing the wheel. We formed partnerships with the Methodist Church, who started in one of the other communities with this. We've also got a partnership with Via College of Osteopathic Medicine at Virginia Tech. Some of their med students come over and tutor and assist us there. And so, find those partnerships that work and bring those partnerships in and help them to be part of that. It's also good to have Charlotte Smith. Charlotte, like you, she had 24 years as a public school educator and then became our minister of music and worship here at the church. And then she has also severely failed retirement to come back and be the director of our program. So we've got a lot of partnerships on a lot of different levels in that. So.
Yeah, I mean, we just have people out there with so many different skills. We have Tina, who's a retired nurse. And do you know how many times we've needed Nurse Tina?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just the kid. We just tell the kids, well, Miss Tina's a nurse. Oh, and makes them feel better, Yeah. So people just seem to know where to jump in and where to do what they feel like they can do the best.
So follow your passion.
That's
Whatever
right.
that tug.
Yep.
Tommy and I call it, God whispering at you, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe not a whisper, depending on how many times
say,
he's been trying to tell
my call
you.
to ministry wasn't a whisper at all.
But not all partnerships, I would imagine, are going to be perfectly smooth right from the beginning either. So being patient with that is probably...
different principals have, we've had a few principals who probably didn't quite get what we were doing as much as we thought they would, but that maybe goes back on us of not having them maybe come a little bit sooner into to what we're doing. But this is kind of a brag of someone I know who's on the school board. Montgomery County School Board hears me talk about it because we're in something else together, and she said, okay, I'm just going to have to bring this up to the school board because what they're finding, what she's hearing and observing, I think, is that the impact we're making on the whole community, not just the after-school tutoring program.
Right.
And they know there's so many groups out, or so many different communities in Montgomery County that would benefit for something similar than what we have.
Yeah.
And when I said, oh yeah, we've done parent conferences there,
It's a great idea.
We have the back-to-school picnic or kickoff, I think they called it, and one year we had the high school principal, Blacksburg Middle principal, of course the elementary, lots of teachers. They registered kids on the spot for school who were not registered.
Wow.
We have one child, we're not sure he'd been in school for a while, and he came over and they got him connected. And so what she's seeing is that this is something that would benefit other parts of the community as well. And we know that there's spaces. It's not just the space. It's knowing how to make that space and those connections work. So I foresee this is going to impact some other locations.
Which means we need more people.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Because we need people like you and your team who will
And I'm
come in and do this.
Yeah, and I really am not a huge leader in it. I'm just, as far as the tutoring piece, I'm just one that shows up and tutors 2 days a week.
And that's what we need.
There it is. Of course, that's how it is. Let me also say, while we're rolling our pants legs up on that one, that if you are listening to this and you want to start a program like this, if you have tutoring that needs to be done in your community or other kinds of work, don't hesitate to call. We'll give you our address and everything at the end of this, and you let us know. We'll help you as well too. We'll be glad to sit down and talk to you, and we can even meet with you as Zoom if you're somewhere else, and we can help with that and try to. We're not selfish with this at all. Nobody was selfish with us going or trying to take care of the kids. So.
Absolutely.
Well, I'll just ask both of you then, since, obviously we know Tommy is Tommy, so, he's involved on a level, but you guys are actually out in force in the field. From the two of you, any final thoughts that you have for those listening?
I'm staring at Martha Ann.
Okay. One of the lessons I think I've learned is patient. Well, over time I've learned how to be patient, but to not expect something at the very beginning to be the biggest thing ever. Give yourselves time and permission to develop something, to change something, to grow something, to step back and say, and there's been a few things we've even done at Adams Mark that we said, maybe that didn't work. We tried doing a Bible school one summer just at Adam's Mark, and didn't have a huge success. Where we're finding the success is when we go and pick them up and take them to our church to our church-wide camp,
Yeah.
i.e. Bible school, and they love coming and being with other kids. So we're learning, what we've learned is we need to get them off the grounds a little bit, get them out of their community a little bit more than what they typically get away from. And so, once again, did we know that at the beginning? No. So what I have learned from watching and seeing the things that have been successful and not successful is go into it with a good start, but then also be flexible and know that things can change, and often those changes can make a better difference.
That's awesome.
The teacher who had the most influence on me throughout my entire career at any level, he used to line on me when I was in high school that I never forgot. He said, "Don't forget, every experience is a learning experience." He said, even if it failed, you learn something from it, and you can
Hopefully.
take that into, and don't give up on
Right.
just because something didn't work. Try something else. As everybody in this room knows, my spiritual gift is patience. And
Oh
As
my!
we
Some
roll
more
our
leg pants back up
even
again.
further. I know we're boots today.
But one thing we did do when we went there, and it took me years to learn to do this even in church life, is pick one goal. And start
point,
with
Tom.
that one goal and try to see if you can make that successful, or if it fails, what would have worked, and then start from that. And then once it does start to work, then decide what are the next things that go with it. How do you expand that? And I think that's been one of the keys to Adam's Mark, our ministry there being so successful, is it started with one goal, and then we started taking care of the
Absolutely.
needs that we spotted as we were working in that. So, and it took a while. It really did. It took a little while to make all that, but it's been very successful for a very long time.
A test in your
And
patience.
I have had almost no connection to that except praying for it and making sure that you had the support you needed to try to make it
without
go.
the support and the prayers,
Yeah.
we would not have the success.
I
we've
would
had.
interject also the conversation of how this program has impacted the community. Expect when you walk into a program like this, it's going to impact your perspective on what your gifts are, and the impact on your compassion and hope. It really changed that perspective quickly.
Yeah.
Well, like Martha Ann said, you get as much, if not more, from giving than you do from receiving.
You do.
So.
You do.
What a great conversation.
Yeah, it
This
has
was
been.
fun.
Well,
Thank
It was-
you, Martha Ann,
Thank you for
joining
inviting
us.
me. It's fun to talk about things that we know are important and have impacted my life as well as hopefully impacted others.
So awesome. Well, I think that's all for today. So we thank you for investing your time in our messages, and we are grateful for you. If you found today's episode to be helpful, please like and subscribe to the podcast and share it with others. And if you'd like to join the conversation, or if you have questions, if you would like resources, if you want to connect with Tommy or me or anybody else on the team, names that you've heard today, just send us an email at renewedminds@churchonmain.church. And we will put you in touch with those folks. We hope you make it a great day and approach every day with a renewed mind.
Have a good one, folks.
Thank you.
Hopefully this brings a renewed perspective to the challenges and opportunities you're facing today. What steps will you be taking to show love and grace to everyone? If you have any questions or comments about our podcast, please send an email to renewedminds@churchonmain.church. You may also leave comments on Instagram at renewedminds.connect. Thanks for taking time out of your day to join us. Listen next week for the next Renewed Minds.